All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Continuing Through Corona. Today we have a very special guest. We've got Roland Taylor from Statewide Conveyancing, who I'm very excited to have on board for this series of webinars and interviews, as he's got a lot of wealth of experience and skill and insights to share when it comes to managing a business through the ups and downs of running business. So thank you, Roland, for being here. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you, Brady. It is a pleasure to be here with you.
Awesome. So, mate, I guess one of the first things that I might get you to do is just to introduce yourself to some people who may not know who you are, for the people who are watching.
So my name's Roland Taylor. I'm a lawyer by profession, so I've been admitted as a lawyer since 1993. I've been in Mackay since late 1994, early 1994, and I joined a law firm called Mackay Solicitors. And I worked as a litigator for them for a number of years, and then ended up running the conveyancing division called Statewide Conveyancing, which eventually branched off on its own in 2011. So I've sort of been the owner-operator since 2011, and we're now one of the largest conveyancing firms in Queensland. We've grown from sort of 4 staff through to 22 staff at the moment, and we also sort of predominantly we do residential conveyancing, but we have branched out into a bit of family law. We have 2 family lawyers, and we do commercial work, so we have 2 commercial lawyers. I myself, I've been doing seminars for lawyers, so I've been a presenter at legal seminars now since 2004, so 16 years, and I average about 3 per year. I also do a lot of training for real estate agents. And I used to run a number of seminars for real estate agents, although now I tend to do just office ones. But that led on to the fact that I actually ended up publishing a book, a legal textbook, which was sort of an accumulation of my years of knowledge and expertise. And that's now a prescribed textbook at James Cook Uni in the law school. So I sort of managed to establish myself as running a good business that's grown, and also being one of the leaders in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with achievements like that, that's quite awesome. So, what year was it when you started sort of running and managing the business at Statewide?
So I remember very distinctly. It was March 2000, and the previous guy running it had left, and they offered it to me. And I remember thinking, oh, this is a great opportunity. And I got in there, and a lot of you won't realise this, but back in 2000, we had a bit of a perfect storm for Mackay, in that the GST came in, which didn't help us. But more importantly, the mining was sort of in a bit of a low. So a number of mines had just shut down, laid off people. The meatworks had laid off people. And our number one industry at that time was sugar. And the sugar price was at a really low price. I remember talking to a few accountants saying, price of sugar was less than the cost to produce it. So farms were essentially running out of loss. And at that time, I remember that later that year, when it came to harvesting, they had what they called sugarcane rust. Now, I'm not an expert on sugarcane, so I'm not sure what that meant, but it was really bad. And that just compounded it. And Mackay went into a recession, quite a bad recession. So I took on the business, or running the business, at a time when there was just no work around. And rather than be daunted, I sort of was young enough to sit there and go, oh, it's just an opportunity. I just saw it as a great opportunity. And the fact that there was very little work around didn't faze me. So I got in, and what I did was I worked out a marketing plan. So we were sort of the number 3 player in Mackay at the time. And I'd had some experience on how these things worked, and I'd spoken to the person who'd set it up a number of years before, and worked out a marketing plan. So I worked out a detailed marketing plan, ran it past the owners at the time and said, look, this is what I want to do. It's going to cost a bit of money. So we knew we weren't really making any money, and we were going to spend money. And they were good. They just sat there and said, yeah, not a problem, run with it. And because we didn't have a lot of work, it allowed me to set everything up and run the plan and be patient. So it was a marketing plan that took about 18 months to really get some good traction. But we didn't have any expectations that it would be a success to start off with. We were patient, and it was just a great opportunity to implement a detailed marketing plan, perfect it, get it up and running. And had the business been very busy at the time, I think that would have been worse. I would have never had the time to work out a plan, implement it correctly. So in some ways, being in a recession was a good thing because it really gave me a great opportunity.
So that's really interesting. So if we were to go back to the beginning when you said, you started running the business and, that it was, in the midst of a recession, what allowed you to ultimately see it as an opportunity? Because I know for a lot of people, they seem to only maybe see darkness and a lack, whereas you're able to see an opportunity amongst what was seemingly a bad time to be in business.
Yeah, look, I guess I was still fairly young, and I think I was 31 at the time, which for a lot of people is young. But I had that view that I looked into the future. Like, I didn't sit there and say, "Oh, woe is me, we're not doing very well, the future's bleak." What I did is I went, "Where do I want to be in 10 years' time?" Right? And I'd been a litigator, and I think I was a good litigator, but the business wasn't growing a lot, right? And I thought, this is a fantastic opportunity where if I can get in and grow it, in 5-10 years' time, I'll be an owner, right? And that was what I looked at. I looked at where am I going to be in 10 years' time, and how do I get there? Not what is going to happen in the next 12 months. I knew the numbers were going to be poor in 12 months' time, but I thought, doesn't matter. What's going to happen in 10 years' time? And that's what I looked at. I looked at 10 years in the future, what can I do to get there?
So you mentioned that you had a 10-year plan, which I think for a lot of people, that's ultimately what depends on their success or not, because if they're focused on the inherent lack or problem that's right in front of them, they can't see the future. And for you, that's what I'm sensing from you is you're seeing a future and you're going to take some actions and do some behaviors that's actually going to take you to that future. Is that where the marketing plan came in for you to build a foundation to get to that 10-year goal?
Yeah, definitely. I was looking to the future. And that things will come back. It's not always going to be bad. Things are going to come back. And sure, you have to do a number of short-term things to make sure you survive. But it's always a great opportunity to look to the future and go, in 5 years' time, if I do this marketing plan, I'm going to be very successful. And we do that. We do that a lot. Like, even now, we're going, right, we've got spare time. What can we do to change things so that when the market rebounds, we take full advantage of it?
Yeah, for sure. And was there a specific reason that it was the marketing plan that you utilized to grow the business? Why was it specifically a marketing plan for you guys?
So in my training, when I trained as a lawyer in the first couple of years, I did a lot of conveyancing, and I sort of knew about some of the marketing techniques. And the person who set up Statewide, I used to talk to her regularly because I used to be her relief person. She was away, I would step in. And we used to sort of discuss a few things. And then she left and a new person came in who was really green. And I remember sitting down and trying to help him. And I sort of watched him, and he sort of struggled because of his age and his experience. And I remember thinking to myself, well, if I was in there, this is what I would do. All right. And it was sort of like a little seed that started to grow. And it had sort of shot out of the ground by the time they said, Roland, would you like to take it on? And I thought, this is great. I've already worked out to a certain extent what I want to do. And then I got in, and because I had spare time, I just molded that even better. Like, I just added extra features to it. So I had some ideas, but I got in, I sat down, I fleshed them out, and then I came up with a plan And that plan has changed over time. So we're continually looking at it, changing it, tweaking it. But I had spare time and I had some ideas. I went in there and I thought, well, I've got these ideas. I reckon I can do really well. And then I had the spare time to just implement it and fine tune it.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool. And just due to myself and you having previous conversations, you've mentioned to me about a philosophy that you started with. Can you share with us the philosophy, and do you still adhere to that same philosophy today?
Yeah, so the philosophy is very much your biggest business asset is your staff. And the idea is if you get really good staff in, train them, manage them very well, you will have a very successful business. And that philosophy was at the start. I remember going in at the start and there was 4 of us, as myself, a receptionist and 2 conveyancing clerks. And I knew the conveyancing clerks were good, right? And so my first job was to make sure that they got along with me, not them get along with me. I had to get along with them. So I had to fit into whatever their expectations were. And I knew that. Now I've been running for over 20 years now. It's still the same. With my top staff, it's me getting along with them, not them getting along with me. And I'm always looking around for ideas to make the workplace a far more enjoyable workplace. Like anything I can think of to make it more enjoyable to come to work. I love doing those type of things. And the results are that you end up with a really loyal staff and very good, and they grow your business for you. Like you work as a team. And we've been very successful like that. I would say that 90% of our success has been driven by high quality staff that love to come to work.
Yeah. So for you, do you think that's what true leadership is where you're making sure that you're being who they need you to be rather than them having to be who you want them to be?
Yes. Yeah. It is a little bit of a two-way street. I think early on, when you get someone fairly young or inexperienced in, we try and mold them into the type of employee that we want them to be. But certainly for our senior and key staff, it's a matter of me being the type of person that they want to work for.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've altered my behaviour. Like I think back to when I started, and my skill set is completely different to what it is now. I've picked up all these skills because I've had to keep these staff wanting to work for me. And I've changed a lot. Look, I was very fortunate. I had a sort of an office manager who was very experienced, and she used to give me tips every time I did something wrong. She would say, "Oh, Roland, you've done this wrong. Maybe next time do it slightly different." And I'm eternally grateful for her because a lot of my skills have come from her teaching me.
Yeah, wow. And is there any secrets that you could share with us around how you actually create a good environment and I guess an enjoyable environment for your staff and your team to come to work to? Like, what are some of the things that you do to build a great culture?
Look, I remember being introduced to an idea, and it's about 15 years ago, and it's called the Fish Omnibus is the book, and it's modelled on a workplace in Seattle called the world famous Pike Fish Markets. And what they did, and the authors sort of watched and observed, and the business ran on the basis that the employees had a lot of fun. So they got to work and it was just pure fun. And what they noticed is that the employees, if they were having a good time, they were very productive. They wanted to work there and the business thrived. And I remember thinking, that's the model I want. Right now, maybe that won't work for every industry, but certainly there's lots of evidence to say it works for most industries. And it helped. My personality was along those lines. So I like having a lot of fun myself. So I remember in the early days, we would, after hours, we would do activities as a team, which was just a huge amount of fun. We would just go and do something that the girls wanted. In the early days, we didn't have any male staff apart from myself. So one of the activities we did is we did a shoe buying exercise. And I took them around a variety of shoe stores and I said, you each get to buy one pair of shoes. You pick, I pay for it. And we had a few rules to make it fun. Like, it wasn't just they just go and have a look and work out what they want. No, there were rules that they had to follow. And so there was a bit of pressure on them because we never went back to a store. We'd go to one store and we'd stay there for half an hour and then we moved on. And they had to make a decision. Do I buy a shoe from this store or maybe the next store will have something better? So we put a bit of pressure on them just to make it fun. And so we did, for about 5 years, we did a lot of these exercises and the staff still talk about them. Another thing I got up from the book is we have what we call thank you vouchers. So the concept is that when you want a team environment, what happens is sometimes in our office, if someone's away, everyone else has to pick up their files, right?
Yep.
And yes, that's part of the job. We pay them to do that. So in theory, they should just do it. But what we found is that no one really likes to work on another person's file because they don't know what's happened, and they don't know what's going on, and they've got to read through an extra paperwork, and it's just not as enjoyable as running your own file. And that became very obvious that they just didn't like doing it. And so what we created was a thank you voucher system. So what happened was if someone looked after one of your files while you're on holidays or sick, you gave them a voucher saying, thank you for looking after my files, right?
Yep.
And then once they collected 10 vouchers, they would trade them in for a movie ticket. So I paid for the movie tickets. And what happened was over a period of a year, I asked them, well, how many thank you vouchers would you get over a period of a year? And they said, look, we get enough for roughly 4 movie tickets per year, right?
Yep.
So what I did is created a culture where people were thanked for doing jobs that they didn't really enjoy, and that in itself made a huge difference. Just someone coming in saying, thank you, here's a voucher. Now the voucher actually had some value, right? So that also helped. So they were giving a voucher saying thank you, and the voucher had some value. Now the value is effectively $1.50, right?
Yep.
It's a really small value, but it has value, right?
Yep.
And so getting a thank you that has a value, even if it's only a small amount of value, created a huge amount of goodwill, and that made a big difference. And that was one of the many things I picked up from this book about how to create a nice, fun culture. And those things have made a big difference. And my senior staff still appreciate them. They still appreciate going to the movies 4 times a year.
And how do you think that this, I guess, environment and culture that you've created, how has it helped you guys manage the ups and downs over the 20 years that you have been in business?
Yeah, so look, we were around in 2012, 2013, and most people will remember, but for some of you who don't, in 2012, the mining boom was out of hand. It was just getting silly. You could rent a place in Mackay, that was Mackay, it was like $600 a week for a 3-bedroom house. If you were renting in Moranbah, it was $2,500. Like, it was just ridiculous. Prices for houses were going through the roof. Teachers and policemen and firemen whose wages didn't go up with the boom were really struggling because the cost of living had gone up. So we were around, and then we did really well in 2012. Then, of course, we had the crash. So the mining boom finished in 2013, 14 and 15. Prices plummeted, people were leaving town, everyone was struggling. So I was in charge and an owner by that stage, and we knew, and I've been told this by our insurer, the Queensland Law Society, they said, in a downturn as an employer, you've got to get rid of staff, and you've got to do it fairly quickly, because if you wait too long and you're too nice, your business goes under. And there's all these stories of law firms going under because the boss just held on with and didn't make any changes to the cost structure. So I sort of knew this, and fortunately we had a few staff take maternity leave. That helped us out, but I still needed to make a few staff redundant. And they weren't senior staff, they were junior staff that'd been with me maybe 1 or 2 years. And it's very hard, but what we'd done is we'd telegraphed it really well. So we'd let the staff know that there'd been a big downturn, and they knew that something had to happen, right? So that was the first thing. Because I'd been very open and transparent, they knew exactly what was going on, right? And then, so when I had to make, I think I had to make 2 staff redundant. And when I sat down with them, both of them said, look, we know this was going to happen. And they said, look, we really love working here. And, you know, they had a bit of a cry and said, you know, we love working here, we'd like to continue working here, but understand, and we made them redundant. The rest of the staff were very supportive, both of the girls that had to leave and of myself. And they came back to me and said, look, we know that was really tough, you didn't want to do it, but we understand, we appreciate it, and we appreciate the fact that we still kept our jobs. And they were very supportive. So by building a really good culture, when you have to make tough decisions, the staff understand. Right? And they don't get bitter. They're very appreciative. And, you know, these 2 girls, if I see them in the shopping centre even now, we'll stop and have a chat. Because that was the culture we had. They knew that I did this as a last resort, and the rest of the staff knew that. And so the culture didn't change. Even though we had a huge downturn and we had to do some things that we'd rather not do, the staff were 100% behind me because of the culture in the office.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's as you said, it's been a major key to the success for you running a business. This successfully is being the culture that you've built. So I just hope that the people that are listening are really recognising the time they're going to be putting into their team and their staff is definitely worth it. And you can back that up with evidence, as you said.
Yeah, I was listening to a webinar the other day and there's a guy who's a really high-end guy in the insurance industry, and what they were doing, they flying in to countries like the Philippines, Indonesia, and he would fix their problems in the local insurance offices there. And he was very successful at it, and he was going through the reasons he was successful. And he had a list of points, and they were really good points, and they're points that I think I was largely following, but it's always nice to have a reminder. And one of the points he raised is he talks about authentic communication. So when you're talking to staff, you've got to be authentic. And one of the things that I do is every morning, I usually get in first, but about 9 o'clock in the morning when everyone's arrived, including some of the casuals or part-timers, I will walk around the office and I'll talk to each of the staff members and I'll just say, good morning, how you going? And I will wait for a response. And quite often, when you get a new staff member in, they'll sit there, you say, how you going? And they'll say, not bad, not bad. And I say, really? What's wrong? Because I'm good. Like, I love coming to work. Why? Not bad. That's, to me, that means there's something wrong. And they'll look at me and they say, but no, I'm good. I say, well, say I'm good. Don't say I'm not bad. And very quickly they change. And they say, oh, good, great, going really well. And it's a little bit like, you know, if you sort of are going well and you say it, it reinforces it and you do feel happier. So, and I'll do that. And, you know, I'll listen to people. So I'll say, how you going? And they'll say, I'm good. And I'll go, oh, hang on, you've got a croak in your voice. Are you a bit sick? And I'll say, oh, yeah, didn't sleep well last night. Got a bit of a headache or got a bit of a sore throat, right? then we'll have a chat about it, and I'll say, look, if it gets worse, I want you to go home, right?
Yep.
If I don't want you to hang around. So it's those little things. Conversely, I've heard of people, and they will say, they'll say, how are you going today? And you can see they've already moved on. As soon as they've finished speaking, they've moved on.
Yep.
And the staff picked that up really quickly.
Yeah.
And I know with one firm that I had some dealings with, and I knew some of the staff there, and they said what they did is the boss used to say every day, how you going? And they knew he wasn't listening. So one day they tested him and they said, oh, no, I'm going really bad. My dog died last night.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, that's great. And walked
Yeah.
He wasn't interested. He wasn't being authentic.
Yeah, sure.
And that's very important. Very important is to be authentic. And you know, I have a lot of fun with my staff, and we had one staff member who you'd say, how you going? And oh, yeah, not that well, you know. And she was just miserable, right? And she's a really nice girl, and she was a junior lawyer, and I liked her a lot. And it was always, oh yeah, I guess I'm okay. And so what I did was I couldn't get the message through to her that no, you've got to be happy, right? So we work in mini teams, so they would sit next to somebody else. So there'd be 1.5 meters between them, or maybe 2 meters, so and they work as a team. So what I did is I said to her work partner, Buddy, I said, I'll make up some names, and let's say it's Susan, who's a bit miserable, and sitting next to Mary. And say to Mary, God, Mary, you must be awful to work next to. You know, Susan is always miserable. You know, like, you must be like the worst person to work next to. I don't know. Can you pick your act up? Like, can you just improve? Because Susan here is obviously not enjoying working next to you. That was the complete opposite. Like, Susan, no, I love working next to her. Right? But it was a nice, fun, subtle way to say, hey, it's not good enough. It's not good enough to go, oh, yeah, don't go. It's, no, you've got to be happy. Right?
Yeah.
And turn around. Within a week of having those chats, she was good. Always a lot more upbeat. And work performance improved too. Because she was happier. And she didn't realise she did enjoy working there, but she had a bit of a negative outlook on life. And we just turned that round to a positive outlook on life, and her work picked up.
Yeah, wow. And I'm really curious to know, Roland, do you guys still have this same enjoyment and fun right now during the COVID unfolding events? Like, is there still a good atmosphere in the office?
Oh, it's even more so.
Yep.
What we're finding is people got a little bit more spare time. So in a really busy period, people are under pressure, and you've sort of just got to manage people being stressed out.
Yep.
Even though the world seems to be collapsing around us a little bit, and not from Australia, but certainly outside of Australia, the staff have more time on their hands, and because we're very careful about the staff we employ, and we do mould them and build them, at the moment we've got one particular junior staff member organising a lot of competitions, and you get the right people, and every now and then you get someone who actually enhances the culture. So it's not a case of bringing them in and moulding the culture. This particular guy, we've got to get them from time to time. He's enhancing it. So he's starting all these competitions. So, you know, we've got a walk 50,000, 50 kilometres a month idea.
Yeah.
50, something like 50. And then he said, well, we got to do November. Roland, are you in for November? And I said, my moustache is really ugly. He said, I don't care. I said, right, I don't care. And he then, joking around and teasing, we have a boy, he's 19 years of age, and really nice kid. Well, you know, he's getting picked on a bit, you know, because he'll, for example, he'll go out and run around the town doing deliveries and everything. He's hot and sweaty, you know. And so someone's obviously told him, well, when you do that, you put deodorant back on, right? And I think it's a great thing that he does. Well, they tease him, you know. They sit there and say, well, who are you trying to pick up? You're obviously trying to pick up some girl out there or something. But just give him a really hard. So we're finding even more so now, with a bit of extra spare time and not being stressed out from a work perspective, we fill that time with joking around, having fun, doing activities that are enjoyable.
Yeah, sure. And perhaps for the small business owner who's watching this interview and, you know, they were going back to what you said earlier about, you know, it was a slower time in the early 2000s when there was a recession and you had the time to implement and design a marketing plan. You know, what would be your word of advice to someone who is you know, they do have that spare time at the moment because their doors have been shut or because they've lost a few clients? Like, what would you say to them?
I would say there's looking at an opportunity to do things that you've only thought about or wanted to do. And a good analogy is, let's say you're at home and you think, well, I've got nothing to do at home. And you think, well, I've been wanting to cut that hedge back or that tree down or clean the yard up or do a big, you know, house clean, you know, clean parts of the house that never get cleaned. You think, great, I'm going to do that because now I've got time. Well, think of the same with your business. So your business, you suddenly got this spare time, right? And it's just a fantastic opportunity to go, right, I've got all this spare time. What are the jobs that I've been thinking about or the activities I thought, well, maybe that's a good idea, but I don't have time. So now it's just that fantastic opportunity to do all those things that you had at the bottom of your to-do list that you never got time to do in your business. Now you do. And my advice is make the most of it because these opportunities don't come along very often. And it's a great opportunity to get in and do these things that you never had time to do, but you always thought that would make a difference to your business.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And even on top of that, it's probably for some people also creating a vision of some sort of what they want to achieve in the next 10 years. You know, for you had a 10-year vision that sort of helped you get to that position where you are now. And maybe for some people, they've never really thought about 10 years in the future. They've only ever thought about 3 months ahead.
Yeah, look, I think for a lot of small business, and we talk to a lot of them, and they go in, they say, my dream is to run a cafe. That's my dream, right? And they get in and do it, and all of a sudden, you're only doing takeaways. And they think, my dream is coming crashing around me. I think they've got to look bigger. You've got to say, okay, maybe that was my dream to run a cafe, but it's not my dream now because I'm running that. My dream is now, I want to run a cafe where I'm the #1 person with for coffees, or I want to run a cafe where, you know, we just have 100 customers come in every morning and every lunchtime to buy food and coffee, right? And okay, they can't come in at the moment, but I want to set it up so that in 3 months' time, or 2 months' time, or 1 month's time, probably when they relax the restrictions. When I open my doors, I've got this plan in place. I'm going to start implementing the plan, and so that in 5 years' time, I'm going to have this thriving cafe where you've got heaps of people coming in, and we're the #1 place to buy coffee in Mackay, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what they need to do. If your dream was just to run the business, that's a good starting point. But when you get in, you got to sit there and go, okay, I'm running this business. Ideally, what do I want to be doing in 5 years' time? And dream, go, oh, I want to be running a business where I have 100 employees, right? Well, there's no reason why you can't do that. It may take you a fair amount of time, and it may be a lot of hard work involved. But think, yeah, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to have a construction business where I have 100 employees. How am I going to get there? And let's start doing it.
Yeah, I love that. That's definitely a great piece of advice. So The other question I have for you is, for the people who are watching, they're probably seeing this very confident, very successful business owner who took a team of 4 people to 22, who's been in business for 20 years, going through the ups and downs. Have you always been a good business owner, or did you have to learn how to be a good leader and how to run a good business?
So I don't think I have any natural skills at all.
Yep.
I remember growing up, and I was good at sport, and I remember my sister saying to me, "Oh, you're always good, no matter what sport you play, you're good at." And I said to her, "No, I'm not." I said, every single sport I started playing, I was hopeless. I was hopeless. Everything I touched, I was hopeless. But I persevered, and I watched, and I learned. And
Yep.
it was the same with the business. I'd had some experience, but I really had not much experience running a business when I stepped in. And I knew that. I knew that at the age of 31, I wasn't a good business owner, right?
Yep.
But I believed I could become a good business owner, and I watched and listened. So I would read articles and paper and magazines and books, and I would talk to people. I'd talk to as many people as I could, and I would bounce ideas off them. And not everything I did worked. So I kept saying to myself, look, I'm not good, but I'm getting better. And every time something went wrong, I'd go, right. That reinforces my view that I'm not good, but I'm getting better, and I'm going to learn off this exercise, right? And I still do that. I told the story earlier about I had this office manager, and she trained me to be a good manager. And I think now, after 20 years, I am a good manager. I'm not perfect because it doesn't come naturally. I've had to work hard at it, but I think I'm very good at it now. Also, I remember one year, it was the market was good, right? We had all this work coming in, and we ran at a loss. We'd lost money, and we couldn't work out why. And so I sat down and I went through the figures in great detail, and I looked at all my costs and everything, and I worked out why we made a loss. And the next year we turned it around and made a whopping great big profit, and the turnover stayed the same. So that was another example where I assumed that I didn't know what I was doing, and I went in, analysed it, researched it, and went, yep, now I have an idea. I'm going to build on that. So, anyone who says to me, well, I'm going to start a business, my advice would be, well, just remember you're not going to be very good at it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're lucky, maybe just you're natural, right? But I think you need to assume you're not very good at it. And then once you start at that position, you've got to have confidence in yourself, and you've got to have confidence that you will be a success, but you're going to have to learn, and it's going to take hard work, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you take that approach, when you get the knocks, because you'll get knocks in running business, things will happen and things will go bad. But if you come from a situation where you think, well, I'm not good, but I'm getting better, and I'm going to be really good in the end, when you get a knock, it just reinforces that I'm not good yet, but I'm getting there. And you don't worry about it. You just accept that that's who you are, and you're going to have these hurdles and these knocks, but you will get through them because you know that you're working hard at it, you're learning, you're researching, and you're just continually improving as a business owner. And I think the people who fail either have too high expectations or are too confident. Like they either, it's good to have self-confidence, but have self-confidence that you will grow into being a good business owner. Don't have self-confidence that you are a good business owner before you started, because then you won't improve, and if you get a knock, you may give up.
Yep. So it's about humbling yourself, but also having the belief and the faith that you will continue to grow and continue to develop into the business owner that you eventually want to become.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, awesome. And I'm really curious, Roland, like what parts of the business do you enjoy most now that you went from obviously being a lawyer to sort of managing and now really, I guess, doing all of the components? Like for you, what do you enjoy the most?
The staff. I enjoy interacting with the staff, and I enjoy when we put on a new staff member learning about them. So we will put on a new staff member, and if it's a guy, it's a bit easier. So if it's a guy, say 21, 22, over a period of about 3 to 4 months, I'll slowly learn about him. We'll have chats maybe once a week for 15, 20 minutes, and I'll learn about him and build a relationship. With my staff, none of them socialise with me outside of work, but during work hours, we're like best friends. So there's that line in the sand, but it's very much at work. It's a case of we get along very well. So I really enjoy that. One of the things is I like challenges, and I like to do new things. And I think a lot of successful people like that. So I've enjoyed the different aspects of my work. And because I don't just do legal work, I just don't do management, I just don't do marketing, I just don't do training and staff, because I do all these different things, I don't ever get bored with any particular aspect of running the business. But look, it's staff. We're at a stage now where we've worked very hard on our recruitment techniques. So we now spend a long time on recruitment to make sure we get the right person. And our success rate is running at about 80 to 90% when we employ them. And so we recruit well, and then we have a good office culture, so that within, even if they're young, so we'll get girls in who are 20, and very careful around female staff, particularly young ones. But what I find is that after that staff have got to know me, maybe 12 months, 2 years into the business, they become really enjoyable to work with, because they're very relaxed, I'm very relaxed around them, and we have a very good working relationship. So it's recruit the right people, have the right cultures to mould the junior staff, and then you look after your senior staff, and you find that I just love coming to work. And don't tell my wife that, because she gets quite upset that I seem to enjoy work more than being at home.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to keep that one a secret. So have you ever had a staff member that may be hindering the culture and I guess making the place a little bit dysfunctional? And what did you do to either turn them around, or did you choose to remove that person from the business?
Yes, we have almost a zero tolerance policy. And I use that term because New York Police Commissioner phrased the term. So in New York, they had a big crime problem. And what they did is they went to zero tolerance. So they started issuing fines and tickets and prosecuting people for the smallest things. And they found that if they stopped people doing the small things, it reduced the big crimes, and had a huge success rate. So we adopt a very similar policy in our office. So we don't tolerate any inappropriate behaviour at all. No matter how minor it is, we jump on it straight away. And for example, there are no mobile phones allowed on your desk. This is personal mobile phones. And if I see someone have a mobile phone, I'll talk to them straight away. Straight away. If I have a junior staff member that talks inappropriately to a senior staff member, I talk to them straight away. We have a bit of a chat. So that works very well, and we don't really have any issues at the moment, so it's all really good. Over the years, I remember we had one girl, and her work was not very good, and it wasn't going very well, and we had a chat. So we sat down, formal meeting, went through all the things she was doing wrong, and said, look, you really need to improve it. And she had a bit of a cry, but she turned it around straight away. Just became a really valuable staff member. So the lesson from that story is that talk to them early. As soon as they're doing stuff wrong, talk to them. And sometimes you have to make it a formal meeting. Sometimes it's not very nice, but that does quite often will turn them around and turn them into a valuable employee. I've had a few senior staff that have gone bad on me. So staff that were really good, and then something's happened in their personal life. And not necessarily a negative thing. Like we had one staff member who had a home business that took off and was doing really well. But of course, she was working to midnight every night, and she was coming to work. She was grumpy, difficult to get along with. The quality of the work started to drop, and so we started talking to her. And then it got to a stage where we had a formal meeting because she did something wrong. It wasn't major, but it was wrong. And we had a formal meeting and said, look, this can never happen again. And she resigned the next day. At the same time, we were talking to her, we were saying to her, perhaps you want to go and run your home business. And I said to her, look, give it a crack. This is your dream in life. I will hold a position for you. I guarantee you that you go and do this for a year, and then it doesn't work out, I've got a position here for you. Right? So it's a combination of supporting her, but at the same time saying, look, this is just not acceptable. This cannot happen. And then she made her own mind up to go. And we've had a few like that where they lose interest. They just don't want to be there anymore. And we immediately start applying the pressure, and they leave. Some turn around and some just leave. If it's in the first 6 months, one thing we've learned very early on is if they're not really good in the first 6 months, they're unlikely to be good long term. So if someone comes and works for you and they're not putting a big effort in. So we have some people that struggle with the job, but 100% effort, attitude's great. We will work with those people, and we will just continue working with them for as long as it takes. But where someone comes in and they don't put in that 100% effort, they're not hardworking, and as a result, they quite often cause problems within the office. Then we start talking to them, and it's a fairly quick process. We'll have maybe 2 meetings in 1 week, and then the second or third week, we say, no, look, we're just not for you. And we'll support them. We'll say, look, we'll provide you a reference, be a referee, we'll help you out, but you're not the right person for us.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's really great advice.
We've had consultants. One of the reasons we do that is we've had some high-level consultants come in, and when I was working with another firm, I sort of knew there were some toxic people in the culture, but they were very close to the owners. So as an owner, you've got to make sure that you're not blinded just because someone's nice to you. And it took this external consultant to come in, and what he said was, it creates a toxic environment. And also your stars. So you'll have some stars. The stars don't want to work with people who are below standard performers, right? And if you keep on the below standard performers because you're a nice guy, you'll lose your stars, and you'll end up with a team of very average performers. So you have to work on those things. And being because I'm conscious about staff being nice to me when they're not nice to other people. In our office, it's a well-known fact that being nice to me is a complete waste of time. Right? Being nice to the senior staff is extremely important. And I make that clear. When we have new staff stay, I say, you don't have to get along with me, but you have to get along with the senior staff. If you don't get along with them, you can forget about working here. And most of them get it. Most of them get it. Occasionally they won't. And if they don't get it, not a fit, and they don't understand. You know, I'm sure they say themselves, but you know, I've got on so well with the boss. I don't know why he let me go. My key staff, my senior staff, and if you're not nice to them, then I don't want you in my team.
No, I love that. So, mate, we've covered quite a lot here today, and thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with? Any parting thoughts?
Look, everyone's going through a tough period. We sat down with our staff at the end of last week, and we had to make a decision as to whether to make them redundant or not. And I think without the JobKeeper payments, we would have made 3/4 of the staff redundant. As a result of JobKeeper payments, we were able to keep all our staff. We just had reduced hours for most of them. And what was lovely is, even though I had reduced the pay and the hours that my staff are working, they all came back and said, thank you, we really appreciate what you've done for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the benefit of having a great culture, a great team, is when you make really hard decisions, instead of your staff being bitter, they thank you. And it makes me feel really good to have staff like that.
Yeah, and it obviously goes to show that you're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort, and you're following the right principles to develop the culture that you do have. So hats off to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Brady.
All right, mate. Well, again, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure the people who are going to watch this are really going to gain a lot of value from it. And if you do have any further questions for myself or Roland, please do reach out to either of us, and I'm sure we can help out in some form. So enjoy the rest of your week, Roland, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Brady.
Thanks, mate.